On this episode, we're going to break down the systems, the foundational systems that every agent needs to have in place if you're going to build a team and scale a team. Okay, if you want to, or even if you're a solo agent and you want to sell more homes, there's certain systems you need to have in place. So we're bringing on Tiffany Gelzinis from the Gelzinis Group in Virginia Beach to talk about this. She did a masterful training the other day for our team, and she broke down some concepts that I haven't heard before, and or at least as detailed as I've heard before, and wanted to share it with you guys. So let's get into the episode right now. What is up, everybody? Welcome to episode 243 of the Massive Agent Podcast. I am your host, Dustin Brohm, an agent in Salt Lake City, Utah, and your host of the show. So this week, we have Tiffany Gelzinis. She is a team leader out of Virginia Beach, and she has some systems in place that she's built for her team that are just so smart. They're so genius. She breaks them down. This is one you're going to want to rewind. You're going to want to, take some notes. You're going to want to listen to a couple times, because if you implement these systems and the concepts that she's about to break down for you, you will be head and shoulders better than you were yesterday. All right. This is stuff that really is going to move the needle. And she's figured it out over the years, some of it through trial and error, some of it just common sense, some of it from her real estate coach, but she's got some stuff that every single agent needs, especially if you aspire to one day grow a team, start hiring other agents, and build a team around it. And whether you want to be a team leader and just be able to sell more homes and help more people, or you want to actually get out of production altogether, you're going to need these systems. So really, really good shit with Tiffany. We're going to get into that in just a sec. But today, you guys, I've been teasing this. If you are on our email list, you've been hearing about this over the last little bit. I'm going to be announcing it on social media. Well, by the time this episode comes out, I will have put it on social in my stories on Instagram and TikTok especially. But today, right now, the Massive Agent Society is open. So we are opening it up for 50 spots only. First come, first serve. The reason we're not just opening it up to the masses and accepting hundreds or thousands of members is we want to preserve the integrity of the group. The dynamic of it is so awesome, and we can really have massive impact with every agent who is a member. As long as you actually show up and do the work. Of course, if you're not going to show up and do the work, don't waste our time, don't waste your time, don't waste your money. Not worth it. Go do something else. But if you are willing to do the work and you just need the roadmap, if you just need to be told, here's the steps to do, go to massiveagentsociety.com right now. The new website is up. And if you are wondering, well, what is it? What is it all about? Go there. Check it out. We have broken down the coaching group into 4 main categories: media, mindset, marketing, and mastery, which is like business mastery, some systems, calculators, really mastering like the business side of being an agent. And so it's not just for leads. If you want to get leads, great. If you want to be a better content creator or learn how to start the right way, great. If you maybe have some limiting beliefs, if you have some scarcity thinking that's preventing you from success, if any of these things describe you, you will get massive growth in the Massive Agent Society. And for everybody who joins right now, you're going to get instant access to the 7-day Jumpstart program. Over the first 7 days, okay, as soon as you submit that thing and join, and it's official, you get instant access to the 7-day Jumpstart program. I highly recommend that that's where you start. And if you do those things over the first 7 days, you're going to be a little bit uncomfortable. Okay, it's forcing you to get out of your comfort zone a little bit, but I guarantee you, business will come from it. You will get sales from that. I can't guarantee they happen immediately, but they will happen at some point. That's just what we've seen. Okay, with everyone who's actually done them, it does drive business. And there we go. The Massive Agent Society is open. MassiveAgentSociety.com. First 50 spots are open. So hopefully if you are going to get one, you act sooner than later. All right, guys. This week we have Tiffany Gelzinis. She's just a badass. Okay, she runs such a great team. I've heard a few trainings that she's done. We are connected through our brokerage, and she's done some of the trainings for our overall team, which is super cool. Anyone who's part of my team has access to the trainings that she's done. And they're just so detailed and great that the last training she was doing, I messaged her. I sent her a Facebook message like while she was still presenting. And I'm like, okay, you need to do this for the podcast. This is too good. If you can do it half as well on the podcast, we're going to get a ton of great comments, a ton of feedback, and a lot of agents, improving and growing. And we're going to have some massive impact there. So really excited to jump into this. Quick shout out to our sponsor of the episode, Follow Up Boss, the best CRM in the industry. They're just so user friendly. It's made so well. If you've been going through different CRMs and you're like, this one's cool, I like these features, but these suck, and you're just not totally stoked on any particular CRM, and as a result, you're just not using it as much as you should be, you need to check out Follow Up Boss. And for a limited time, they'll give you a 30-day free trial, not just a 14-day, which is available on their website, but a 30-day free trial because you're a listener of this show. And to get that 30-day trial, you just need to go to massiveagentpodcast.com/followupboss and jump on it. Make sure that you don't just sign up and forget about it. Sign up and actually use it. Okay, try it out and see why Follow Up Boss is the favorite CRM and business growth platform of all the industry's top leaders, team leaders, agents, brokerages. They're all using Follow Up Boss. Go find out why. 30 days free. Let's get into it right now with Tiffany Gelzinis from Virginia Beach, an agent who is absolutely going to rock your world. Let's do it. All right, guys, I am here with Tiffany Gelzinis. Tiffany, welcome to the show. How are you?
I'm doing well. Thanks for having me, Dustin.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So the other day, it was a week or so ago, you did an incredible training for our overall team group thing that we have with our brokerage. And I messaged you during the training, I think, and I was like, Tiffany, you got to come on the podcast and do this. It was just so detail oriented. It was so tactical. There was so much common sense packed into it. And if the average agent hears what you're about to say today, I think it will move the needle in their business. It absolutely will. So first off, welcome to the Massive Agent Podcast. I understand this is your first podcast.
It is. Yeah, it is
Awesome.
my first podcast. Thank
Well,
you
we
for
are
having
honored.
me.
Yes, we are honored that you would have your first episode here and not with some other jokers. So, but as you'll find out, the joke's on you. So, but Tiffany, I'm so honored that you join us today. You are a team leader in the Virginia Beach area. You're on track to sell about 175 homes this year as a team, and you haven't even been in real estate for that long. 7 years. It depends on your perspective, but
Yeah.
You've built something pretty awesome in a relatively short period of time, and I want to hear all about how you've done that. So before let's start with this. How did you go from a solo agent to now running a high-powered, productive team? What did that transition look like for you?
Yeah. So part of it was out of necessity. So my first year in real estate, I got pregnant with my second child. And so it was partially out of necessity. I needed some help. And I got really busy really fast. But it was also because I felt like there was a better way to run and manage a team, and that there was just a need for more business-oriented real estate teams out there versus, some of the more sales-oriented. And both of those are really important. Yeah. But if you don't have systems around how to sell, then it gets a little bit difficult and you just find yourself on the hamster wheel forever. So I wanted to be able to grow something where the client had an amazing experience, but then also that the agent had an amazing experience because they didn't have to worry about all the noise in the background and they could just focus on the part of the business that they loved.
You talk a lot about systems and, you're going to break some of those systems down. Do you think that the lack of systems is really a killer of anybody who's trying to scale?
Absolutely. 100%. Like, what are you scaling if you don't have a system around it? So, I think that is a killer of a lot of people that are trying to scale. So one of the things I notice a lot of times in interviewing agents when they're coming to interview to join my team is that they're dropping the ball left and right, and they would have more business and more money and more time freedom if they would just focus on what they're supposed to be doing when they're supposed to be doing it and know what that is in advance. And I know that sounds really vague, but if you go into your day and you know what you're supposed to get done every single day, then you can build habits around it. And then you're not dropping the ball on who you were supposed to call or what you were supposed to do. And honestly, I was kind of guilty of that myself, which is why I've built these communication plans or systems around how to talk to people, when you need to talk to them, and just to kind of keep the productivity up. But yeah.
Yeah. I think systems also intimidates people because it sounds so big and daunting and complex and complicated. And I mean, in fairness, they can be, don't necessarily need to make it quite so complicated. So, as you transition from a solo agent to, growing and running a team, what are some of the systems that you need to have in place?
I mean, the first and foremost, a CRM. So client relationship management tool. You don't know what a CRM is, but you have to have a database that you're going to use. And that the last half of that sentence is the most important one, because I will tell you, I've had many databases that I didn't want to use. And if I, as the team leader, don't feel comfortable logging in and using a system, then I can't expect my team members to log in and use that system either.
Right.
So having that centralized place, and in fact, that's probably one of my biggest regrets in looking back at my business, is I wish I was more consistent with my database from the beginning. Instead of really, I've gotten real good at it in the last 3 years, and actually even better at it in the last probably year and a half so I'm with Follow Up Boss is my CRM, and huge shout out to Follow Up Boss. They're the best out there. Hands down, the best CRM out there. I am not paid to say that. But
I am, but
I would be okay if I was. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
But anyway, no, hands down, they're the best CRM out there. And the reason that they're the best is because you can pretty much do anything that you want to with it. You can customize it in the way that's going to work for you, for your business, for how you want to run business, and everything is in one place. And that's so important.
Absolutely. So did you go through a few different CRMs before you settled on Follow Up Boss, and then how did you know that was the one?
So ease of use is the biggest thing, really. Ease of use. So it's so simple.
Yeah.
And I don't have to spend hours and hours and hours training. When I log into the system, I can find something easily. It has great reporting. It's not busy. So a lot of CRMs are really busy, and when you log in, you just feel like chaos and you want to leave. So yes, I went through quite a few CRMs. If you count my first spreadsheet as a CRM, I'm probably at like 4 or 5 different ones that I've used.
Okay.
But at the end of the day, it's really just whatever you're going to consistently put information into is what works. And if I just needed something that had a clean and simple interface that I could make it work how I wanted it to work. And
Yes.
I didn't have to constantly find workarounds to get it to do the things that I needed it to do.
Yes. Yeah. For ease of use and just being intuitive, I've never seen anything that remotely comes close to Follow Up Boss. I mean, there's lots of people using something that works for them, and that's fantastic. Keep using it.
Mm-hmm.
But if you're like, where should I start? Follow Up Boss it's just so genius. Like, it was built that way from the start. You can't add on and fix it after the fact. Like, the foundation was just well done. So
yes, well done.
Yeah.
And you can, it's scalable. It will grow with you. That's the other thing that's really important, because 4 years ago, I wasn't thinking about adding automations into my CRM that talk to a Slack channel so that my agents know when there's an opportunity that might be ripe. That I wasn't thinking about that 4 years ago, but growing into that now, that's what I'm thinking about. Now that's my focus, is how do I work? I have 23,000 people in my database. How do I keep this 23,000 person database organized and running and as an engine so that my agents are benefiting from that engine, because that's the goal, really. I mean, we can all go out and buy leads all day long. I can spend $10,000-$20,000 a month on, some of the portal sites. And what's the point if I can take my existing database and spend $2,000 on it and just keep it running and churning? So yeah.
When you're at that point where you're like, okay, it's time to do a team, you had to out of necessity. Let's talk more about systems. Whether you are starting a team now or plan to, I think it's super important that you begin with the end in mind, and you actually know what it looks like what are you building towards? What does that need to look like? So what are some of those systems that agents should start at least wrapping their head around or implementing today? Let's dive into, tactically, like what should they be doing to start growing a productive, profitable team?
Right. So, the first thing, obviously, we already said CRM. We know that's important. The second thing, and this is one that I think a lot of people don't pay attention to, is if you're thinking about being scalable, if you're thinking about growing a team, usually most people are thinking about eventually exiting from the business, or at least sharing the business that they generate with somebody else.
Yeah.
Centralized phone numbers and not using your personal cell phone is a really big one as well. So I fell into that accidentally again, but it was the best thing I ever did. From day one in real estate, I never used my personal cell phone number for any client communications. I had moved actually from Richmond, Virginia to Virginia Beach about a year and a half before I decided to start selling real estate. So I had a phone number with a different area code. And I thought that was going to have an effect on my real estate business if I didn't have a local phone number. So immediately when I got licensed, I got a Google Voice phone number. And that Google Voice phone number has been my main business phone number for 7 years, and just because. But what that's done is that's given me the opportunity, even going from a solo agent, busy solo agent, that's given me an opportunity to add leverage to my business, to have an assistant answer the phone, to have an assistant be able to answer text message or inquiries. But you have to think about how are you going to leverage yourself and start to remove yourself out of everyday activities. And the phone number is a big one that a lot of people do not pay attention to. The other one is, and I know some markets use this anyway, but showing time, that's another system to just stop being a, scheduler. You're not a scheduler. You have to really pay attention to your daily schedule and the things that you're taking on every day, that you need to have a system, hopefully, to do those daily activities. But if it's not a system, then it needs to be another person. So identify and piecemeal those things out over time.
If it's not a system, it needs to be a person. I like that. That's a great rule of thumb.
Yeah.
So you automate as much as you can, showing time. These days, you don't need a human being to answer the phone and say, yep, that time slot looks good to go show the house. Automate that shit. It's easy for you. It's easy for the agent calling. It's easy for everybody. It's safer. There's a record of everything. Like, I don't know why people aren't doing this.
Right.
Whatever.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's an easy one. Yeah.
It is. Yes. Okay. So what else? What else what other systems should agents be implementing? And first off, the concept that you just described, that you need to figure out how to remove yourself and the need for you to be involved is key. Because if you want to step out of production, or if you want to be a true business owner, that business can't be relying on you coming to the office that day. Because if it does, it's not a business. Like, it may be profitable. You may have a great income and a lot of revenue coming in, but it's not a true business if you have to be there.
And that profit is capped as well.
Right.
Because that profit is going to be capped by whatever your capabilities are. Whereas if you're reproducing yourself, basically, and you can do it piece by piece by piece, then that income is limitless. And I mean, I feel very confident that I could take my business model And I mean, we're growing and we're changing and we're evolving every single day. And that's just how it's going to continue to be forever because things always change. But I do feel pretty confident that I could take my business model and I could set it into another market and reproduce it. Like, I don't even think that it's specific to the Virginia Beach market anymore because it's really just become an opportunity. Like, it just, okay, I'm not going to do this one task anymore. So I'm going to figure out how can I make this reproducible, even down to seller communication. Okay. So we're coming out of a market where things sold in 2 to 3 days, right? So we didn't have to think about the system behind seller communication. But do you know what the number one thing is that sellers complain about their listing agent?
Probably a lack of communication.
Communication.
Yeah.
Lack of communication, that they don't know what's going on. So one of the conversations, this is a system that we had pre-pandemic because we needed to, because homes stayed on the market for, a couple of weeks to a month or, maybe even longer, depending on the house. But there has to be something that's reproducible so that the seller has that experience where they know that they're going to hear from you every Monday at 10 a.m. Or whatever time that is. And you set that expectation up front. So this is the information we're going to send you on whatever day, Tuesday. On Tuesday, you're going to get a seller report from us in the morning, and then I'm going to call you in the afternoon to tell you what my opinion is of it. And then you know what? They're not calling you on Wednesday night to see what happened because you've already told them what happened. And they're not calling you on Wednesday night to see what happened on Wednesday because they know they're going to talk to you again on Tuesday.
Right.
So that's all just about create, and that's a system. It's not a technology, but it is an operation on how to do something over and over and over again. So the experience for the customer is the same every time. And so the expectations are already set in advance. So you can have some kind of work-life balance. You can have the efficiency of, knowing this is what I'm doing at this time of day. I'm updating my seller clients on what's happened the previous week and then what our plans are for this week going forward. And then it's just easy.
Yes.
But you have to take the time to create that standard, that operating procedure, the SOP, standard operating procedure. You've got to take the time to develop what you want that to look like for your business.
And do you just have like a task list or action items or something within the CRM that's like, okay, with this file, this client, here's the follow-up time or times, I assume it's just built into everything, right?
Yeah, so this is something, again, we're we're putting this back out there. So we're revamping it because we're just coming out of a market where everything was selling. So we didn't need to update our clients. The update was we have 15 offers. We'll talk to you tomorrow. Yeah. Let me have a chance to sort through this stuff,
Right.
So we're coming out of that situation and moving into something else. But what we used to do, and this is what we're putting back out and back together, is we would send an email template. So we had a template that was created, and I had an admin that would fill out the template every Monday morning. Then the listing agent would review it on Tuesday morning and send it out because there's, you want to have a set of eyeballs on it just in case there's something in there that's going to be offensive. But what the admin would do is they would go through and they would collect all of the feedback for any showings that we had in the previous week. All of that feedback would go into that email. The number of showings that we had, the feedback from those showings. We would take the property views off of some of the websites like, Zillow or MLS tracks the property views, those kinds of things, so they can see what's happening. Any new marketing that we would put out, if we had done a Facebook boost for a video or any of that kind of stuff, we would put that ad, what the ad was, a link to the ad, and then what the outcome of the ad was so that they could see that we were actually spending some marketing money on their home. And then that would get sent out to the seller on Tuesday. And then the agent's responsibility was just to call or text and just say, did you get my market update? Do you have any questions? Just wanted to check in to let you know what's going on. And then it would also have whatever the plan was for the week. We'd like to do an open house this weekend or, whatever that might be. So yeah, now we're having to revamp that and put it back out there because times have changed and our technology's changed too. We have some other things that we can do now.
Right. So okay. You describing how you take the stats and the analytics and the eyeballs and you put it in there, like that excites me because I love HomeBot. HomeBot is every time you get the HomeBot update, it's like, I wonder what it says. You look forward to it, right? Every morning I wake up and I look at analytics for certain social platforms to see, how am I moving in the right direction? How many
Right.
impressions did I get the day before? Like, all of that. And I look forward to it. But I'm also not calling Instagram ahead of time and saying, hey, I know that you're going to give me this information in the morning. Would you mind just letting me know now how I'm doing? I just wait because I know what's
Right.
coming. So,
Right.
like to your point, you're cutting down on the clients being upset or impatient or whatever because they know what's coming. I would also think that this probably in the long run drives a lot more referrals for you guys because you just come across as so much more professional, right? You have this, you are professionals with these systems in place rather than willy-nilly, updates that happen every now and then whenever you remember to.
Right. Yes, exactly. Yeah. And and to answer your question about tasks, I can't stand tasks in a database. That's just my personal preference. So we use smart lists for pretty much everything. So with our smart lists, we can base off of activity. So if we had, when was the last communication? Okay, so if I have a client and they haven't had any communication within the last 7 days, then they're on a list. So when our agents are logging into their system, they know, talk to my clients, talk to my prospects, and they go in order of opportunity, but also commitment of who they need to talk to. So it's automatically in there that they haven't been communicated with in the last 7 days. So that's kind of how we do that. The seller side thing, just making sure that they know what's going on with their house. Yeah, the whole idea behind that is just to prevent those. I mean, nobody likes getting that call at 9 o'clock at night while you're trying to get your kids to bed or watch a movie with your spouse. Nobody wants that call at 9 o'clock at night saying, I haven't heard from you in a while. Is everything okay?
Right.
Like, no, let's prevent that from happening.
And if you do get that call, like they've been stewing on it, like they've been worried about it or they've been upset for a lot longer. Like they didn't just think of it that second, like, oh, I don't know what's going on with my listing. I better text Tiffany. No, they've been thinking about it maybe for days, and
Right.
not good for the client experience, is it?
No, not good. Not good. No.
Right.
So we want everybody, like when our clients close on a transaction, the goal is for them to say that was easy.
Yes.
Now we can't fix everything. There's problems that happen in real estate where, just things come up and you can't predict things, you can't fix everything. But if you already have that relationship of being a professional, your clients will also talk to you a lot differently than if you don't have that reputation and that rapport built up front.
Yes.
So they'll trust you when you say, hey, I have a situation. This happened today with this property is supposed to close. And oh no, something came up at walkthrough. And it was simple comment back to my seller that said, there's stuff going on. I've got it. This is what's happening. Don't worry. I'll update you as soon as I have more. And she knows I will because that's what we do. So you don't have to worry about it.
The agents who are really dominating and growing and they're selling hundreds of homes a year and they keep growing every single year, they have a trait. You're proactive instead of reactive. You are telling the clients how things are. Like, hey, client, here's the way this works. Here's how we do things. Here's the system. Here's the process. Here's everything you need to know. I mean, imagine going into a doctor and they're just like, hey, how's it going? Like, what are you here for? And then you have to tell them everything. Like, no, they have a process and therefore they are professionals in your mind as the client. And the same thing's happening here. So the agents who are more reactive and they don't prepare their clients for what could potentially happen, they don't have any systems in place, and and it's all just reactive and willy-nilly. I'm sorry, they may have a good experience, but I don't think that they'd be able to call you a professional if they were asked to. So that these systems all lead to future sales and a lot more referrals, right? What are you seeing any data as far as that goes?
We do get a lot of client referrals or past client referrals, repeat clients. And I mean, full disclosure, I'm not so good at keeping up with my past clients. We do events. We're working on putting some other things into place that are better systems, but I always thought that, the cheesy emails were just cheesy emails. Like, I'm not sending you home maintenance tips or your, recipe card in the mail. That's just not my style.
Daylight
I'm
savings
not saying
time.
there's anything wrong with it.
Yeah.
It just wasn't my style. So we never did that. So we have client events 4 times a year. So we'd always invite them, but it would be people that I hadn't seen, hadn't talked to in years. And they would call me to come list their house. And it was, well, we just had such a great experience. So of course we want you to help us sell, or of course we want you to help our mother, or our, sold an estate recently. You're the only person I would call about this because you're the only one I can trust to get me through this situation. And that's because of the experience that they had working with us to start with, not because I did anything great about staying in touch over the years, unfortunately. So that's a system we need to put in place.
Well, that speaks volumes, though. You're making your life easier by having all these systems, which is laying the groundwork for future referrals and more sales. It's awesome.
Right. And from the agent perspective, because now that's the way I see it now, and growing my team, the agents that are on my team are really my clients at this point in time. Like, I work for them because it's my job to give them the infrastructure. Otherwise, what do they pay me for?
Right.
What do they pay the team, which pays my salary? What do they pay us for if I'm not providing value? And as we continue to grow, and as my agents continue to grow in productivity, I have to keep raising that leadership lid. We've talked about that actually even today on something, but I have to keep raising that leadership lid and provide more and more and more value. So the agent is my client now. So having these systems in place, a lot of it is to prevent all of the how just stressful it is to be an agent, and how you feel like you never have any time to yourself, and you're always on 24/7, and you just never know when something's going to happen. No, you can control a lot of that. And so my goal is to automate, systematize, organize as much as I possibly can so that their days are good. And they don't have to go through what I went through to figure out what systems needed to be put in place.
What do you do when you mentioned how, if you're going to have a team, you need to find and hire and onboard new agents. Talk about your training, and then talk about how do you help them to close more deals? How do you help them to convert the leads in their database into actual clients? To talk about that part of what you've built.
So we are improving our training system now. We're actually putting all of it into a training platform called Thinkific.
Oh, nice.
And so that it will actually be here's your login and go through the modules. And actually we have a deadline of the end of September to have at least our first 85% skeleton launched for our onboarding and basic agent training. I have squad leaders. So our squad leaders are responsible for subsets of our team. And the subsets of it, so we have office hours every single day. If people have questions, they can come and ask those questions. But the initial launch of getting up and started is what is important. And a lot of that is learning how to talk to people. And you can't learn how to talk to people until you understand where they're at in the process of buying or selling a house, and then catering your conversations around them to where you're not selling them anything, you're just helping them solve a problem. And you're trying to find out what it is that they want and what they dream about. So we do have training that we utilize that is actually put on by another company, Hatch Consulting. They have some really great ISA lead conversion training, and we do utilize their training to train our agents on how to talk to people. But then in addition to that, we do role play 4 days a week. And it's really super important. And it doesn't matter if you're calling internet leads, if you're door knocking, if you're doing open houses, whatever lead generation activity that you're doing, you have to know how to talk to people. And every single day, my agents show up for role play, and we go through 1 or 2 different scenarios. And we've gotten to the point now where agents are going, I want to be the client today. I've got a good one, because they talked to somebody. And so they're basically reenacting situations that they had on the phone or in person over the last couple of days. And our other agents are basically dealing with it in a role play situation. Like, what would you say here? And then we give feedback, and we're all just learning and growing together every single day. So part of the team system is you've got to have those set times every week where you're going to be together as a team. And for us, we have a huddle every morning at 8:45 where we go through. It's a little bit of an accountability huddle, but it's also just a launch to your day. So 8:45, what was your win for yesterday and what's your plan of attack for today? And we actually keep track of, you said you were going to have 5 new conversations today. So the next day I've got that written down. And when you say, what was your win for yesterday? Well, I had 4 conversations. Okay, well, what happened to the 5th one? You were going to have 5. And that little piece of accountability rolls, and then we roll right into role play. And then we have a team meeting once a week on Wednesday. And I know that sounds like a lot of meetings, but it keeps us together. It really comes down to about 45 minutes a day, with the exception of our team meeting is an hour. But that's what our culture is built around.
Again, you just have this culture of being proactive. You know, the fact that you and your agents do role play, you know, that's being proactive. That's not waiting until some shit happens and you're like, oh, you know, let's figure this out and pull something out of my ass on the spot, which doesn't usually go well unless you're a grade A bullshitter, which some are. You know, I got pretty good at that actually, but I wish I was prepared. Yeah. I think that's another key to success is be great at bullshitting. Question, your team, are you guys live in person in an office, or is it virtual, or is it hybrid?
So kind of a hybrid. We have an office. I have a handful of agents that come to the office on a regular basis, and then I have a handful of agents that only come in for our team meeting on Wednesday.
Okay.
So I don't have an expectation that people have to be in the office. We do have minimum expectations in order to maintain leads. So if they're going to stay on our leads, there are minimum expectations of things that they have to do. And that is attending our huddle and our role play. We have a 75% rate. You got to hit 75% attendance on everything. And then the team meeting in person on Wednesdays. So we have a hybrid.
Awesome. So you mentioned leads. Do you provide leads for your team? And also, you know, do you just kind of let them like, here's the leads, go for it? Do you train them on how to talk to people, you know, how to respond to leads, things to say? You know, let's dive into that part of it.
Yeah, so no, we definitely, so we use a pond system. So all of our leads go into ponds. They're not assigned to agents. Okay. I like that system because I feel like you're rewarded for the work that you do. Sure. I know that, you know, people have different interpretations of that, but and then we have 2 different, I guess, brackets of leads. We have leads that we call premium leads, and those are the more expensive leads that we pay for. So you do have to qualify for those.
Ooh, I like that.
But so yeah, and that really comes down to, once I feel really confident that you're going to answer the phone and have a really high probability of converting the lead into an appointment, then you qualify. So it's a little bit of a loose rule right now. We don't have specific parameters, but once people feel like they're confident and they're ready to take on premium leads, then I tell them to let me know. And then I'll go in and, thank you again, follow up boss. I'll listen to some of their phone calls. And if I feel like they can convert a lead really well, then they can get turned on to the premium leads.
Genius.
As far as training on how to talk to people, we use the Hatch coaching or the Hatch training for the how to go through a conversation with people. And definitely have at least some initial scripts when you first initially get somebody on the phone, to keep them on the phone. And then we have systems on, okay, you've had a conversation now, you know, or you didn't have a conversation, you called, now send a text message. Here are some templates that work. We measure the templates, like we actually track the templates that get responses so that we know what kind of conversations work for people. The more casual and approachable and helpful you can be, the better with all of those scripts. If you start a text message out with, hello, this is Tiffany Gelzinis with the Gelzinis Group, brokered by eXp Realty. I saw that you recently registered. They stopped reading before they even got to my last name.
Yeah, I stopped listening before you finished that, by the way.
Exactly, because it's boring.
Yeah.
But if you're sending a text message that says, you know, I saw that you were looking at 123 Main Street. 345 Smith Street is for sale as well. This one looks pretty comparable. What do you think of this? Or you're looking at houses in Virginia Beach. Would Chesapeake also be an option for you? Now you're just helping them troubleshoot.
Yep.
You're helping them to send them data versus trying to sell them something. And the more you come across as a salesperson, the more likely you are to not get the sale.
Right.
Funny, huh?
It's weird how that works.
So
Tiffany.
weird how that works. I say a lot of times, I say, nobody likes to be sold, but everyone likes to shop with a friend.
Absolutely.
So
yes,
there you go.
Well put.
Yeah.
I've heard you talk about how you tag your leads within your database. Can you talk about that just for organization? Because I see it's very easy to overdo this, but at the same time, you have to think about and have some plan for what happens over time with all the leads that are coming in. Are you going to let them fall through the cracks because they're not good leads, quote unquote?
Right.
If you can't see me on the video, I'm air quoting. Not good leads. How do you sort those, track those, manage those so that you don't have people falling through the cracks 3 months later?
Yeah. So everybody is an opportunity. Every piece of data that goes into your database is an opportunity in one way, shape, or form. Maybe not now, but maybe 3 years from now.
Yeah.
And this evolution also came out of necessity. So what I realized, actually really within the last 8 months, I realized that leads were being categorized in our database, but they were being categorized as if it was a permanent state of being. So for example, it might be labeled that they bought a house with another firm. So it might be a lost opportunity, but that was a lost opportunity in 2018. And now they're logging into my website and looking at stuff. So just because they bought a house 4 years ago doesn't mean that they're not going to work with me now. So I was finding that the categories that we had for our leads, or the buckets that we were putting them in so that they wouldn't be noise right away, were getting in the way of our agents actually looking at the whole lead. Because if they're categorized, and we use Stages and Follow Up Boss for most everything, but if they're categorized as bought with another firm, and the agent sees that they logged in because they're looking at their activity smart list, like who's doing things, well, the first thing that they see when they click on that lead is that they already bought a house.
Yeah.
They're not going to scroll all the way to the bottom and see when that happened.
Right.
So I'm trying to think of our database as a long-term asset. So how long does somebody need to be categorized as bought with another firm? And this is just an example that I tend to harp on a lot, but how long should they be categorized as that? Well, a year, maybe? And then maybe after a year, if they're starting to log in and look at property, maybe then they're interested in selling, or they want to know what their neighbor's house sold for, or they're looking for a vacation home, or whatever the case may be. But so we are creating automations based off of our stages in Follow Up Boss, to where if a lead is in one of these, I like to call it life cycles, like temporary life cycles, then they'll stay in that life cycle for a period of time, and then they'll go right back into our we call it the ocean, which is the pond where all of our leads are just held. And they go right back into there, and then they're just worked based off of activity. And we have an opportunity at that point in time, and there is actually a tag that's added to a lead after a year where they're placed on a smart list. And on that smart list, they're told the reason why they're placed on the smart list, but the agent should reach out and ask if they're interested in an equity report on their home, because I want their address.
Yes.
And after they've been in their home for a year, they might be interested in an equity report. If they just bought their house, then you're just another slimy real estate agent that's trying to sell them something.
Right.
You call them a year later, now you're trying to get them into your ecosystem.
Yep.
You're trying to get them to engage with you, versus 3, 4, 5 years later, they're going out there and finding another agent on Zillow.
Yes. I'm so glad you brought that up. As I was learning how to be an agent and learning all these concepts, I learned the hard way. I was one of those agents that was like, oh crap, that lead already bought. Delete. And I would delete them. And now in hindsight, I'm like, how stupid, because first off, I'm assuming that they even had a positive experience with the agent they bought with. Most of them probably didn't. And even if they did,
right,
most agents don't follow up. And so even if they had the best experience ever, a year later, eight months to a year later, they've forgotten who the hell that agent is. You know?
Right.
So genius. It's genius that you don't write them off ever.
No, no. Every piece of data is an important piece of data. And even, back to did they have a positive experience with their agent? My agents are trained to ask that question while they're on the phone.
Ooh,
So if
yes.
somebody says, I just bought a house, take me off don't say, if they say take me off your list, then we do legally take them off our list. But if they say, I just bought a house, so thanks for reaching out, but I'm not interested right now, then my agent is trained to say, that's fantastic. Congratulations. When did you buy? Oh, I bought in 2021. What a really difficult time to buy a house. Your agent, you and your agent put some really hard work in there. Well, let me ask you a question. We're always looking for great agents to add to our team. Did you have a good experience working with your agent? And if they did, then I want to meet that agent and I want to recruit them.
That's awesome.
If they didn't have a good experience, then I'm making a note of that because I want to bring them even more so into my ecosystem. So yeah, but you don't know the answers to those questions unless you ask them.
That's fantastic. Again, you're proactive. You're making shit happen, and I love that. So it starts with your mindset. I was reactive for most of my career, and someone told me hey, I'm not interested. I was like, oh, okay, I guess they're not interested. Even though they clicked the button on Facebook to get that list of homes, they had some level of interest, some level of curiosity,
Right.
whether they wanted to buy today or 3 years from now. Shouldn't we be doing our duty to them? They raised their hand through their activity, through their actions, and said, hey, this is something I'm interested in at some point. And then because it's not convenient for us, we're like, oh, okay, good luck. Like that's shitty.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yeah, I just want to applaud your, how you're teaching and training proactivity into your team right from the get. And that's why you guys are growing. That's super cool.
Well, thank you. Yeah, it all comes down to working that pipeline, but you got to build the pipeline first. So it's, having conversations. And I mean, my most productive agents on my team are really great at maintaining relationships by utilizing our systems. And that was one thing that, stages that we use to maintain communication and knowing who you need to call when. So I need to call this person tomorrow because I said I was going to call them tomorrow. So instead of setting a calendar reminder or a task, we just change their stage and they show up on a list. And we do that for all of our long-term clients. We might have clients that are, they're military and we're just on their options list at this point in time. They haven't even gotten orders here yet. And we're keeping in touch with them every 30 days because we want to make sure that they don't push the easy button on somebody else's website later. They come to us and they're asking us the questions and we're the resource versus them going out there to try to find somebody else on their own.
Great.
So just staying in front of people. Great
point. So you've worked with a lot of agents now, both, with your team on the other side of transactions that, why do agents fail in this business? What are you seeing? Why are agents failing?
So I have two answers for that. A lack of consistency. A lack of consistency is probably the biggest one. And what I mean by that is you have to talk to people. You have to be adding people to your pipeline every single week. And so many agents get busy with a couple of transactions and they just get on that real estate roller coaster. And then it's frustrating because they have 3 or 4 closings or 2 or 3 closings, or it depends on the agent, and they're so busy with their transactions that they don't prospect because they don't have time to prospect or to talk to new people. And then they drop the ball and didn't follow up with anybody that they had already had a relationship with. And then they close all those transactions. So now they're officially unemployed, right? So they close those transactions and they start all over. And they're just constantly starting over instead of just maintaining. And if you have the system to maintain all along, then you don't have to think about it. You don't have to get in there and think, well, I've got a prospect today for 3 hours. No, you don't necessarily have to prospect for 3 hours, but you sure as heck can't stop talking to the people you've already been talking to. You've got to maintain that pipeline, and you've got to continue adding people to that pipeline. But it's so consistent habits is one. And I think the other is a lack of structure, which I guess is a very similar answer to consistent habits, but structure behind how you organize the information that comes your way. What are you going to do with it? You want to go do a teacher event. Well, okay, well, what's the plan after the event? Because if you're just going to go do a beginning of the school year teacher event, but you don't have a marketing follow-up plan for those contacts, then you just wasted whatever, $500 on breakfast. So let's create a system on what you're going to do over the long haul so that you become that person that they know, love, and trust.
So great. And I could not agree more. In the past, I did a great client appreciation event, hired a photographer. They could come to this place in Salt Lake called Wheeler Farm in the fall and get family photos done for free. But then I was like, there you go. Enjoy your photos.
Yep.
I mean, I think I got even by doing it wrong, I still got some referrals from that. But my God,
Sure.
How much more could have come from that if I just, took an extra, just a little bit of extra effort and thought it through. Lack of thinking things through, or a lack of willingness to do the extra. Let's be honest, some agents are just lazy.
Yeah. They're lazy. That's true. There are agents out there that are lazy, but I think it's also there are agents that just get busy.
Totally.
And a lot of times they get busy on the wrong things.
Yes.
They get busy on trying to find new ideas to generate business instead of just really digging in and having a plan for the business that you already have right at your fingertips.
Right. Yep. The first question or the first thing I say when I have an agent, they're like, hey, I need help getting new business. And I was like, well, where did your last 5 closings come from? And because that worked, oh, well, it was just my friends and family. Okay. How did that come about? How can we do that again? How can we get in front of your friends and family more often? And,
Right.
always looking for that new thing, that shiny object syndrome. It's
Shiny object syndrome.
Yeah.
It's bad.
Tiffany, what else, if you have one final tip for anyone who is where you were, you're solo, whether out of necessity or you're just ambitious and want to grow, doesn't matter. It's all good. What would you recommend? Any other tips you haven't mentioned for, starting, growing a team?
Well, I would say the take a moment and write down how you want things done. That's my number one tip, because you have to sometimes take a step back to take a step forward. And if you can pause yourself for long enough to be able to create a process on how you want something done, then when you do start bringing agents in, it's replicable. And then you're replicating yourself. You're not just bringing in warm bodies. You're bringing in agents that are going to act to your clients as a team leader like you would act to your clients. And that's really important, but you have to pause and you have to say, I'm going to write this down right now, because if you wait and you're trying to do it all at one time, it really just gets a little bit exhausting. So when we figured out how to stop breaking it completely and rebuilding it, and instead just tweaking it and modifying it, is when we really started to grow. And make sure that you find people that have the same core values as you have to surround yourself with. And so the first step with that is figuring out what are your core values, right? And you have to do a little self-reflection on that. But then you have to bring people into your world that want to do business the way that you want to do business. So it's hard when you have an agent come in, and there's some sales sharks out there, right? There's some super high producing, really competitive agents. And honestly, those people don't fit into our world very well. We are actually, I mean, we have our little competitiveness, but we're very encouraging. We like to have fun together. We want to help other people. And that's really our core values. So if we have an agent that comes into our team that's super competitive and is trying to, jump on the leads the fastest. And I mean, we want them to jump on leads fast. Don't get me wrong. That's important. But those competitive, super competitive, high D personalities, those people just don't fit in our world
Right.
very well. It's the people that are consistent that fit in our world really well. Because also those high D personalities don't want to be told
Yeah.
what to do. And we're pretty structured, as you can
So
tell.
you're saying those agents that were trained when told no to respond with, "Oh, so you don't like money?" You're saying that those agents don't work well on your team? Yeah.
No, they really don't. They don't
Ugh.
work well. The pushy agents, like we're not pushy. We're not pushy. Um we're really always looking to come from contribution and provide something of value to everyone that we're talking to, whether it's a client or an agent or a colleague. So um if somebody is trying to do the hard sell with on our team, it just doesn't work very well. Like that's just not how we talk to people. So
Tiffany, this has been so
yeah.
good. Whenever we have a guest, before we wrap it up today, we want to do the rapid fire questions, either or questions.
Uh-oh.
So you don't need to elaborate or explain your answer unless you want to. They're just either or. And then after those, we'll let everyone know where they can find you, connect with you, and learn more about what you're doing and how you're doing it and all of that. So ready for the rapid fire?
As ready as I'm going to be.
Facebook or Instagram?
Facebook.
Okay. Facebook or TikTok?
Facebook.
Books or podcasts?
Hard. Podcasts.
All right.
But I really like books too. That's hard. I do a bunch of both.
Well, you'll love this one. Podcasts or audiobooks?
Podcasts.
Fair enough. Rental property or flipping?
This is really hard. I do both. Flipping.
Okay. Burgers or pizza?
Pizza.
New York or LA?
New York.
Are you a sports fan?
Depends on the sport.
NFL or NBA?
NFL.
Right. College or pro?
College.
Nice. Mountains or beach?
Beach.
Podcast or vlog?
Podcast.
YouTube or Facebook Live?
YouTube.
Rich Dad, Poor Dad, or Millionaire Real Estate Agent?
Rich Dad, Poor Dad.
Uber or Lyft?
Uber.
Gary Vee or Grant Cardone?
Gary Vee.
And Tiffany, where can people find you?
You can find me on Facebook or Instagram. Actually, if you Google my name, I show up all over the place. One of the advantages of having a weird last name.
Yes.
So Tiffany Gelzinis, Gelzinis.
Awesome. And we will link those up in the show notes. So if you're listening to the podcast, click into the show notes. If you're watching on YouTube, in the description. And Tiffany, this has been so good, so awesome. I appreciate you so much for sharing this. Thanks for coming on the show.
Thanks for having me, Dustin.
Absolutely.
It was fun.
See ya. All right, guys. I told you that was going to be pretty filled with tactics and specifics. So if you need to listen again, please consider sharing this episode with any agent on your team. Maybe if you are on a team, share it with your team leader. Share it with your broker. Any agent who you think would find this information useful, please help us out. Help us to spread, to grow the audience of the show, and also help us to help other agents by getting them this information. If you found it helpful, if you learned something today, I guarantee there's 100 other agents just like you, if not 1,000 other agents just like you, who has no access to this. So please share it so that we can help them. This industry's hard enough, not having certain information. It's like trying to be successful with one hand tied behind your back. Let's not do that. Like, I'm not about keeping information, secret, if at all possible. So please share that. Appreciate you guys listening. And a final reminder, the Massive Agent Society is now open as of today. 50 spots are available. Go to massiveagentsociety.com and get all the details you need, but make sure you don't wait too long because those 50 spots will sell out. This is the only coaching group that I have. So if you're not a member of my team and you want to work together, if you want to be coached, if you want to be mentored by me, this is it. I'm not doing anything else. So, a lot of you guys, let's be honest, a lot of you guys have been asking me, hey, when's this thing opening up? And we did send out an email to all those who are on the waiting list. So I don't know how many they're going to be taking of those 50 spots, but there will still be some available. Just make sure you jump on it. All right. I hate getting the messages after the fact, like, oh crap, I just missed it, or oh, I waited too long. Don't do that. Okay. Don't wait too long. Jump on it. MassiveAgentSociety.com. If you are not willing to invest in yourself, it's really hard to reach your goals. I don't know how to say it any more bluntly or matter-of-factly, but if a few $100s a month is something you're not willing to invest in yourself, then you might want to reassess your goals and the realisticness of them, because you're showing through the energy that if you're not willing to make that investment. I'm trying not to be too much of an asshole right here, but sometimes you need someone to step on your toes. If a few $100 a month is too steep an investment into your life, your business, your health, your happiness, your well-being, then I don't really know what more anyone can do for you. So please don't let that be the thing that derails you and holds you back from the results that you could be getting literally right now today. Literally right now today, you could start the 7-day jump start that I talked about in the beginning. You could be starting that today and starting to really grow and get some results. You'd be surprised at the results that can come quickly for those who actually take action. So don't be the one who comes to me saying, well, I waited too long or whatever. Sorry. Fortune favors the bold. Fortune favors the decision makers and action takers. Hopefully you're one of them. Appreciate you guys listening. Have a great rest of your week. See you next week for another episode. Take care.